Power creep is very real in Magic the Gathering, and today we have a case study that will illustrate just how insane it has become.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The Magic Historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. My friends, I hope the day finds you well. The weekend is winding down, and we are here to talk about the insane level of power creep that Magic the Gathering has been experiencing recently. So, I'm going to walk you down the same path. We're going to do a study with a few different angels to give you an idea of absolutely how crazy things have gotten. Now, this was all spawned for me today when I was wandering through Reddit and I saw that somebody had posted a question from a question that had been asked to Mark Rosewater back in the late 90s. And it was specifically about this card over here, Sarah Angel, all right? It was about how this card wasn't getting reprinted because it was too strong. Let that sink in for a minute, because Sarah Angel is now an uncommon that doesn't even see play, right? But at one point, this right here was the gold standard of power in Magic the Gathering. I mean, obviously putting aside crazy things like the Moxes and the Lotus and everything, but this was like your everyday run-of-the-mill, too powerful card. So Sarah Angel is 2 white and 3 mana. Actually, guys, take a look if you've never noticed it. The old school Magic cards, take a look up at the top at the mana symbols there. Notice that the sun symbols actually look different. Newer sun symbols, whatever. Newer white mana symbols, they're all shaped like a sun, have this kind of jagged line for the sunbeams, but in this case, they all just come out in straight lines. This actual printing is the printing of the Sarah Angel that is most familiar to me, because when I started playing, Revised had just become the main core set, and good lord, I've been playing for a long time, since 1994. But anyways, Sarah Angel here was totally top tier stuff, right? It's 5 mana for a 4/4 flying, and it has Vigilance, which is the old school wording. It says attacking does not cause Sarah Angel to tap. So Vigilance is a much better term for that, and it makes things tighter and neater. The old school Magic cards had a lot of really clunky wording, so I appreciate that nowadays we have keywords to make things easier, because in all honesty, there are creatures now, look at things like Questing Beast, where there's literally so many abilities on the card, they wouldn't be able to fit without keywords. The flavor text says, born with wings of light and a sword of faith, this heavenly incarnation embodies both fury and purity. I always found this pretty intense. Like, if you look at her, this is an angel with like what looks like a copper sword, although this sword is made out of pure faith. But anyways, if you look at her, she really doesn't look like a 4/4 from the artwork, right? She definitely looks like an angel. I've always thought, like, when you take too much of a look at the upturned face, her face almost looks too flat. Like, look at how thick and veiny her neck is and how flat her face is. The whole head thing has always struck me very oddly. But anyways, this is what used to be considered too powerful. So it was actually taken out. They stopped printing it because the reasoning was, someone said, okay, why is Sarah Angel not getting reprinted? And Mark Rosewater said, the problem is that Sarah Angel is so strong that if we reprint it, it becomes the standard that other cards are judged by, and essentially makes a bunch of other cards absolutely worthless. And I mean, this logic, it holds up, right? It doesn't matter what kind of game you're playing, people are always going to use the best tools at their disposal, right? Now, barring people wanting to play, I'm building a theme deck or a goofy deck. Most of the time when playing a game, people will go for the strongest weapons available to them. You know what? You'll play a video game where you'll get this crazy ultimate move that does insane damage, and you'll just spam whatever the most powerful move is. You'll stop using those earlier moves, even if you're just fighting against something that you could beat them by giving them a little tickle touch, but you're just like, elbow from the top ropes, because that's how gaming works, right? So, if you have a really powerful card, it's going to make other cards shine less. And I understand that logic. But where it got really crazy for me was when somebody brought up the fact, and hold on, let's switch it up here. Somebody brought up the fact that Bane Slayer Angel was in standard right now. And they're like, it's crazy to think that back in the day they were like, well, we can't reprint Sarah Angel, but right now we have Bane Slayer Angel in standard. And I want you to be honest with yourself, because I had this moment, and other people in the comment thread and Reddit also did, where they went, Bane Slayer Angel is in standard? That was my gut reaction to somebody saying, Bane Slayer Angel is in standard. And I went, no, Bane Slayer Angel isn't in standard, is it? And then I'm like, is it? And I did a quick search and I'm like, oh my God, it is in standard. How did we get to the point where Bane Slayer Angel can exist in an environment like this and I'm not even aware of it? Like, dude, I've played a lot of Arena, a lot of standard Magic since M21 came out. Like, it's been out for almost a year. In fact, I probably talked about Bane Slayer Angel in at least one other video when it originally got spoiled that it was coming back, because you have to understand, Bane Slayer Angel is a huge deal in Magic the Gathering, right? Like, it's got some significant history. If you didn't know, I mean, first of all, let's talk about what Bane Slayer Angel actually is. It's the exact same casting cost as the Sarah Angel, right? So you're paying 2 white and 3, and you can see, as I said, the white mana symbols, the suns have changed into those jagged little lines, all that. But anyways, what are you getting for the same casting cost? Well, you're getting a 5/5 Angel, so right away it's bigger, right? You've got a 25% increase in power and toughness. It's got flying just like the Sarah Angel did. It doesn't have vigilance, but it does have first strike, lifelink, protection from demons, and protection from dragons. Right? Like, that is absolutely intense. The flavor text says, some angels protect the meek and innocent, others seek out and smite evil wherever it lurks. That makes perfect sense for a concept as an angel. This is an angel that was created to be a big bruiser, right? To destroy things that are a problem. That is why it's called a Bane Slayer, right? The bane of your existence. That's something that needs to be wiped out. So this is a champion angel that's designed essentially to battle and destroy the most powerful demons and dragons in existence. And I have to say, when the protection from demons and dragons originally came along, it felt like a really unique take on the protection from your enemy color concepts, right? Because white's 2 enemy colors are black and red, and demons and dragons are black and red, right? So it all fits together nicely from a flavor standpoint, and the artwork on this card is absolutely amazing. This is a very beautiful angel, and there's just something about the crazy flowing voluminous robes that she has there. It just gives her a crazy sense of grace. In all honesty, when you look at it, she doesn't feel like a 5/5, but I just picture her imbued with a whole bunch of celestial fury and might and righteousness, right? And just bam, bringing that sword down, hacking and slashing and whatever. And the thing about this card is, aside from it being a beautiful card, it made a massive impact when it first showed up. This showed up as a mythic rare back in the day, and it was literally the first mythic rare in Magic the Gathering history to break the $50 mark. This was the first big money mythic in Magic. That's how much of an impact that it made when it originally came out, which is absolutely crazy to think that now, like, you went from I'm the most expensive mythic rare to ever be made up until that point, right? Like, literally this huge chase mythic rare. No singles were $50. Bane Slayer Angel single-handedly moved the upper price level of Magic cards on its own. That's the strength of this angel. Now you flash forward to the current standard environment we're in, and the card is so obscure that somebody like me, who deals with Magic all the time and should know that this exists in standard, is completely unaware that this exists in standard. I don't think that I've ever seen anybody play this card once in the current standard environment. This card was so powerful that it literally warped the meta and the financial markets all on its own. And now it's so insignificant that it may as well not exist. Now, admittedly, part of that is because white has been foundering in Magic recently, right? Well, for a while now. I don't know exactly when the change happened, but for the longest time in Magic's history, green was actually the jankiest color, right? If you were playing green, you were going to be at a disadvantage. Now we're living in Bizarro world where white is the color of the, well, who's going to play this? You never play, like, how many people play mono white? You just don't see it happening because white can't go the distance anymore. But that doesn't change the fact that Baneslayer Angel is a massively, massively potent card, right? I mean, what you're getting for 5 mana is absolutely insane. And it's not enough to move the dial, not even in the slightest, right? Power creep has gotten to the point where Baneslayer Angel is a blank. It's a non-card. And if you opened this as one of your mythics nowadays, you just look at it and go, that's okay. And that is a pretty damning indictment of the power creep that Magic has experienced. And it's experienced it on multiple levels, not just with creatures, but also with incredibly potent answers. There's a bunch of ways to just wipe a creature out for 2 mana without any real problem, right? So you just slam this down and boom, it gets handled like it didn't even exist. It feels like almost every creature now, to be relevant, has to do something right away. Creatures have kind of been turned into like pseudo instants and sorceries because you have to get something from it right away. Either it's got to have haste so it can swing in right away, it has to have some enter the battlefield trigger or leave the battlefield trigger, or when you cast the spell, draw a card. Like more and more is getting stapled onto the back of cards to the point where Baneslayer Angel literally is like, hello, I exist. And I'm going, do you? No, it can't be. I never see it. And the card's so powerful. No, why is nobody using it? But we've literally reached the point where power creep has gotten so insane. I mean, look at sets like Throne of Eldraine. Throne of Eldraine is the high watermark, right? Like of crazy power for standard. Now, I guess the good news is Strixhaven kind of feels like they might have dialed the power back like the tiniest bit, right? Strixhaven doesn't feel like it's loaded down with broken nonsense. Maybe it's got some, well, not maybe. There's every set now has broken crazy nonsense, right? Because part of this is attributed to Wizards' fire design. Like, we have to acknowledge that power creep is going to be inherent. We know for a fact that Wizards knows if they make amazing cards, it invalidates all the cards below them. The most egregious example of all of them would be Oko, right? A 3-mana planeswalker that basically handles everything. Oko was so insane that he literally represented 75% of the field. So if you went to a tournament, 3 out of 4 decks there would be an Oko deck. And in some cases, the percentage might have been higher. Oko is the first time in history where I've ever felt like we had a 1-deck format. Back in the days of like the Mirrodin block, we had like a 2-deck format where you would either play Ravager Affinity or you would play what beat Ravager Affinity. But Ravager Affinity, like that stuff was insane. It was so difficult to beat. So you either played the most powerful deck or a deck specifically tuned to beat that most powerful deck. But the Oko situation was so insane that the best tool to beat Oko was Oko. So they just, you know what I mean? Like, that's the level of stuff we're dealing with right now. And that's because of Wizards' intentions. Like, they've got the fire design. What's fire stand for again? Fun, innovative, replayable, maybe, and exciting, right? Like, that's the idea. And they also want to make sure that the cards they're printing go out into other formats. A term I like to use for it is disrupt other formats, because that's the intent. The intent is to create cards that make it out into these other formats. And the only way to make it into these formats in a meaningful way is to be disruptive, to be so powerful and game-changing that new strategies have to be formed around it. So these cards are being created and shoved out into standard with the intent that they'll make it out into commander, that they'll make it into modern, and in some cases they'll even make it into vintage. Oko was played alongside Black Lotus. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're at the point where power creep is absolutely so insane that a card as strong as the Baneslayer Angel, something this crazy, is meh now. This used to be everything in the world, and now it's a disappointing mythic pull. Like, that is absolutely crazy. It's a perfect case study of how much things have changed over the years. Because I don't think you can look at Baneslayer Angel and go, this isn't a good card. Because it is a good card. This thing does a 10-point life swing every time it hits your opponent. They lose 5 life, you go up by 5. That's massive. You know, like, that's absolutely insane. But it's not enough to move the needle anymore. And for me, I found that fascinating. When I sat there and went, wait a minute, I literally forgot Baneslayer Angel exists when this card used to be the biggest thing ever. That blew my mind. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on the subject. Is power creep driving you crazy? Do you not even see it? Do you not care? I mean, Wizards of the Coast seems to work on a philosophy where Magic players are only going to be with the game for a year or two. So who cares what you do? Because most people aren't going to remember the past anyways. It's just going to be a new batch of people. And whatever's going on when they show up is what's normal for Magic. Do you know what I mean? Like, whatever things were like when you started, that's what Magic is to you. So anybody who starts now, this is what Magic is and how always has been in their minds, right? So it's interesting how this all shakes out. Anyhow, list of my patrons scrolling on by. If you want to check out some cool Magic lore, I'm going to leave a link to my Magic lore video, the most recent one I've done up here. It's a Strixhaven lore video, so check it out if you're so inclined. Thanks for coming by, my friends, and I'll see you next time.